weird up here. It feels like my ears are plugged. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kaiser. I'm from Belleville, Ontario, and Susan Feller very kindly gave me this job. I find the more people I know, the more jobs I get. Not sure how good that is. What a gorgeous venue for a conference, and I've been very, very pleased to be here. We're going to be talking about the creative process. I have taught design, and I have taught many other rug hooking types, but design is one of my favorites. My background is I was a school teacher for a few years, teaching the little guys up to grade 3. I became a graphic designer after that because I wanted to use my artistic abilities in different ways. And I found I had to make a living as well, so I had to do something that made me money. When we're looking around at a place like this, it really starts the creative juices. And that's exactly where our creations begin, is with our ideas. You'll see on this little paper that I handed out to you, the ideas that swim around in your head at 4 o'clock in the morning. The witching hour, I call it. You get your ideas from many, many, many things. Photographs, gardens, watching people, looking through books, looking at art, buildings. Some buildings have very artistic lines and structures. Memories, and other people's rugs. Don't we love looking at other people's rugs to get ideas? And nature, of course, which is one of the biggest ones for me. There is so much in nature to gather inspiration from. As we're thinking of all these ideas, et cetera, we have to make decisions. So many decisions. What size is your rug going to be? The fibers you're going to use, the colors, the width of the hooking, direction of the hooking, how to balance your piece, and what images to use. Many, many, many decisions as you go along. And then we think about the style. Okay, is it going to be a geometric? Is it going to be representational? Is it going to be abstract, or is it going to look very real? What is the end result do you want? Do you want something original? If you want something original, you can choose abstract. That's completely original, completely free. You don't have any restrictions there at all. If you want another way of getting a free and original piece, you choose representational. And that's what most rugs are, is representational. Is that better? Wow. Where was that? Move it around like an ice cream cone. There we go. That's better. Representational is basically your creation. You can say, okay, this is how I draw a tree, and that's yours. This is how I'm going to draw this person, and that's yours. Unless you try to do realism, and this is my opinion, realism is copying. You're copying what Mother Nature has already created. And if you want something that's original to you, don't try and copy Mother Nature. Do it your way. And from here, we begin the technical process. After all this, we have to figure out how to get these ideas from our brain onto paper, onto backing, and then the final with the hooking. I have 3 wonderful people on my panel here who are great designers, and they're going to help you and me explain how they do their designs, how they create their finished products. We have Stephanie Allen Krauss from Montpelier, Vermont, and we have Linda Ray Coghlin from Warren, New Jersey, and we have Maggie Whyte from Canberra, New South Wales, Australia. And they all have their unique styles, and they will all explain to you how they do their creative process. And since I'm standing here, I'll do mine first. You have on the next page, I hope it's the next page, my creative process. The picture that's on, can I borrow this? The picture that is here, I want to explain this a little bit. It's my representation of a plant that grows in Florida called a sea grape. And sea grapes have huge leaves, and they turn colors in the winter time sometime. They turn from green to burgundy to red to bright green, but their veins are an opposite color. And that really fascinated me. So I took that shape and I cut a few out and I placed them on a piece of paper. Then I looked up online, do these sea grapes really have grapes? And they do. They have grapes that hang down, straight down, not in a clump, but they sort of grow on this piece of whatever growth that comes down, straight down. So I did a few felted balls to put on that. The blues in that rug represent the water in Florida, which is a nice turquoisey blue. And that's how that one was created. So on the next page, you'll see the first thing I do is take photographs. I take lots and lots of photographs. I have a book here that I'll be passing around, and it shows a lot of the photographs I take. Mostly very colorful. That's what I'm all about, is color. And I look at my photographs, and I look at the shapes in my photographs. And the shape of the leaves, I just sort of zone in on one shape that I really like of what I'm looking at, and cut it, put it on a piece of paper and cut it out as a template. And then maybe make a few different sizes of them and sort of just move them around on my paper to figure out, you know, what is pleasing and what will work. Once I have that, then I do a line drawing. And this is called my thumbnail. And being a graphic artist, that's what we do. We do thumbnails before we do any final results. And the thumbnails are much easier to move around and figure out color. And then I color plan. I make photocopies of my thumbnails and do a color plan. And sometimes it takes me days and days and days to figure out the color plan of what I want. With a lot of the ones here, the one on your left is my color plan, and the one on the right is the finished product. And the finished product is about 3 feet by 3 feet. I like to do things that are larger than life to make that impact, to make that wow factor. And it's done in a very, very wide cut, a number 10 plus. If you're doing a wide cut, it's much easier to pull the wool through if it's been ripped rather than cut on the machine. But some wool will not rip, so you'll have to use the machine for that. In the color planning process, I also figure out whether I want to hook it high, hook it low, do it the proddy style, do it the regular hooking style. All these decisions have to be made along the way, and usually end up with a fairly impressive end result. The one things that I have not mentioned now is the important, could you bring the rug out? The important parts of good design. First of all, don't be afraid to do it. Just, if you have an idea, just do it. There's a little quotation that I have at the back of every one of my Gmails or emails I send out. It's where does it say that? I forget what it is. Here we are. To live a creative life, you must lose the fear of being wrong. Don't do something, say, oh, that's wrong. Carry on with it. Nothing is wrong. Another very, very important thing when you're doing rugs is to simplify, especially the larger ones. You have to keep it simple. You have to keep in mind if you're doing something wide, it has to be as if you were painting it with a half-inch paintbrush. And when you look at art, quite often art is very, very simple. Just a few lines can make an impression. Contrast is also very important. If you have a rug that is all sort of a middle value, you stand back from it, you won't see anything. It just blends into each other. You have to have light to dark. Also, another contrast is high and low, or smooth and textured. And then as you're doing the process, you're always questioning, now what if I move this here, move that there? Sorry, it's really heavy, isn't it? And you can see, you're getting your exercises. You can see the what if is almost sort two values that you can hardly see, and that proves that you do need contrast. I didn't get enough contrast in that line. And then, of course, balance. Balance of color, balance of shape, balance of design. And that concludes my way of designing. That is just one part. There are so many different ways. This is my representation of nature. And I'm going to be passing this book around so you can look through it. But it's been sort of difficult for us to sort of come up with just one process each, because there are so many. If you want to do a geometric rug, it's mathematical, it's technical. You figure that one a different way than you figure out something very abstract or something representational. It's every different one is different, and I know you're going to have a lot of questions to us about your type of, or what you're thinking of doing. Okay, Stephanie will go next, and she will explain how she creates a rug. Now we've got to figure these mics out, so do you want the one for walking, or do you want to use that one?
I don't know yet.
Okay, go ahead. Stephanie.
Yeah. Hi. Is that all right? Okay. I feel like I'm going to go cross-eyed in a minute here. I'm Stephanie Allen Krauss, and I live in Montpelier, Vermont. I've been rug hooking for most of my life, and so I've had some opportunities to really experiment with a lot of different processes of learning our craft, our art, over the course of time. And the major thing I've found is that, for me, there is no one way of designing a rug. There's no formula for me. Every rug presents, it's an opportunity to learn something a little bit different, a new way of doing something, a new way of representing whatever it is that it's in my brain. I've found that the first and most important thing for me is that I can't design anything until I'm rested. That, more than anything, is critical. And when I was thinking about this whole process and thinking about actually designing my friendship square, I had decided that I wasn't even going to do a friendship square because my entire fall and the summer were pretty well booked with a lot of other commitments, and I just didn't have the brain power to do it. So I realized, so when I was thinking about, I was talking to my husband about, to take a friendship square or not to take one, and he said, well, it sounds to me like you're just too tired to do anything, to put anything together, and he was absolutely right. Well, coincidentally, my brain cleared enough about a week and a half ago. And I was really gratified to hear that there were a lot of other people too whose brains cleared enough they could come up with something. So I actually did show up with a friendship square. But that's where I'm going to start in sharing with you one of my processes of developing my idea. Okay, so when I became rested enough to actually turn my attention to the friendship square, I went and looked in my file folders, and I have file folders on my computer and in my file drawer. So I started looking through a bunch of pictures and just to see what sort of sparked my interest. And the thing that I came on was a picture that I had taken or had found for quite some time ago, and I'd really wanted to do something with it, but I never had. I can hand this around. Maybe you can help, Karen. So on the front is the picture, and you'll notice when it comes around, it's a picture of sap buckets on maple trees. And the picture that I took that I was looking at, I was really taken with the way the trees went back in a line. And I thought, well, this is a great Vermont kind of thing to be able to share. So when I'm using a photograph or using a drawing, I translate that drawing into a line drawing. So you'll notice on the back of that page I just traced it. All I did was I traced the elements that I wanted out of that picture. It's a photograph. It's just a photograph. And I was looking for some color ideas. So the other thing that happens when I'm developing an idea is that I look at a picture or I look at an idea, think about an idea, and begin to kind of do a little bit of brainstorming in my own mind about what I think is important to show in a picture, the colors that I might want to use, and I get some ideas by just looking in my own stash, or I might look at some cards that I have in my file. And this is another one that I'll pass around because this is where I got my color idea. This is just a greeting card, and I happen to like the colors. So that was a jumping off place for me for colors. So I have a general idea of what my design is, my line drawing. I have a bit of a color plan in mind, and then I go to bed. And I sleep. So you can see, sleep is a real important part of my design process. It's magic to me how it happens, really, in some ways, because I just sleep on it for 2, 3, 4 nights, whatever, and for some reason, that's where a lot of the design begins to come together for me. It's the other side. That's the finished product. Yeah, you have to show both sides. Yeah, so the card that she's showing right now, that just gave me some ideas about color, and I happen to like those colors, and I thought, oh, this will be fun. I really was inspired by the colors that I was seeing. So after a couple nights, well, actually I didn't have a couple nights because I only started it about a week and a half ago.